Executive assistance isn't something that you can study only, it's a process. In Gaby's case, it started with getting familiar with office work, doing bookkeeping, becoming a commercial employee, going up the ladder all the way to the carpet floor, as they call it in Germany. Here's Gaby. Enjoy.
Hello, Laura. Thanks for inviting me for this interview. So I'm very happy that I can be your guest today. And I'm an executive assistant. That's what was my profession. I used to work for big companies in the so-called floor carpet or carpet floor. And it was a very interesting and challenging position.
What's a carpet floor?
That's very funny. Yes, that is this floor where all the management sits. You know, where there is normally just a carpet, and in the other floors there isn't. So that's what we in assistant slang call the carpet, the carpet floor, the Teppichetage in German.
Okay, so it's like the premium floor.
Oh yes, definitely.
Usually the top floor.
The top floor, yes, but the top management sits, yes.
And did you know from the beginning that that's what you wanted to do?
I knew I wanted to be something in an office. I wanted to be working in an office, but I never thought of exactly what I ended up at the end to be an executive assistant. You know, this is something you cannot do your apprenticeship and say, I'm now executive assistant. This is a process that you have to go through the years. And that is the interesting part.
Before we delve into what is the job of an executive assistant, how did you start academically? What kind of a background do you have?
Well, thanks for asking, Laura. I did actually what usually everybody did some about 40 years ago or 30 years ago. I did the commercial apprenticeship. And at this time, it was sufficient after the apprenticeship to search for a job, and most of the time you got it. So I did the commercial apprenticeship, and I thought, let's go for it. I didn't really think where it was going to end up. And then with about 20 years of age, I went to Canada as a mother's helper, learned the English language because I always liked the English, but it was not well enough to work with. So I never stopped using it in my profession. And then, from there I continued to go up the ladder, let's put it that way. And that's where I ended up.
A few years later.
Many years later, yes.
So, yeah, what did you do at the beginning when you got your first job? What was your function?
My very first job, I really have to think back very, very strongly. I think my first job was in the big city of Zurich in a company who was doing looking for oils. It's an oil company.
Okay.
And I was in the bookkeeping department. So
Okay.
Because I did the commercial apprenticeship with the type R, it's called it's mainly focused on numbers, and you can do also the other part. It's focused on languages. But I did my apprenticeship in a Treuhandbüro in German, and so I was focused on numbers. Yes, that's where I was in my first job there. Yes.
Okay, then from there you got yourself familiar with the office work, and then what happened that took you then to the profession of being an assistant?
Well, at the beginning, when you start your first or second or third job, you are more or less just a commercial employee, like a helper. Okay, so you really have to get used to everything, and you cannot just become a first assistant to somebody. So meaning you have to learn your skills, of course, which I did. You have also to learn how to handle the office work and the people around you. It's not really easy sometimes, and you are not necessarily having a supervisor, but you have another older assistant as your immediate boss. Let's put it that. And I think it was like that as far as I can remember. So the CEO or the manager, which is up in the floor with the carpet in the carpet floor, is not necessarily then your direct supervisor. But this is the interesting part. And when I look back, I could write a book about everything what I did so far. I really remember it just now.
I'm sure there must have been some fun parts and
Really,
some harder
yes.
parts of the job.
Yeah.
And what would your typical day look like as an executive assistant?
Well, Laura, I have to admit there is no typical day to be as an executive assistant. If you have a typical day, then there is something wrong and you better very, very quickly leave this job. Then it gets boring. Yes, because this is the main thing. In our profession, you have never a day which is the same like the other day. This can't be. Otherwise, you are stuck in a boring job, and this is not what it is. So my typical day, to say it that way, I mean, in the morning, some 20, 30 years ago, you bring the coffee to your manager, right? So forget about this nowadays. I would say to my manager, please, there's the coffee machine, you know? But these things have changed, of course, through the years. I mean, typically in my apprenticeship, I can tell you, the first thing I had to do was emptying the ashtray of my supervisor, of my boss. That was the thing what I did in the beginning. Really, yeah. So it's, I mean, the times really changed through all these years. And I don't think it's the same today than it was some 40 years ago when I did my apprenticeship and my first jobs and so on.
So yeah, there's now a lot of emails to read, right? So I guess it's about reporting and organizing meetings for your superior and stuff like that. Is that typical or?
Yes. Typically, when you come to your desk, the main thing you do is you check your mail. In previous years, we checked the paper mail. You know, we went to the letterbox, we opened the letters, the envelopes, we distributed it to the different managers. And nowadays, we open the email and we distribute it that way. So this is mainly the first thing you do. But my first thing to do when I come to the office, at the time when I still used to be at the office, which I'm not since 2 years, is I had to have a coffee. Without the coffee, I couldn't work. Nothing worked. And it was always good when my manager had the same thing. He always needed a coffee first. Yes, and then the work can start. And so you do your emails, and then you start to see what are the pendings from yesterday, what is on the plate today. Do you have some projects? Do you have something to do for different team members? Do you have to do something for your manager? Do you have to book trips, meetings, organize meetings, whatever? I mean, I can give you a list of 100 points, definitely. It's really, really different.
Is it a stressful job?
I would say it depends a lot in which company you are. What I like the most is big companies. I like the big companies which were global working. So it's never the same in these companies. But when you are stressed, it's normally your own stress. My motto was always, if you are stressed, you do something wrong, because then you cannot cope with your tasks. So when you are at the point to be stressed, you have to check yourself, what can I do that the stress is not killing me? Because on such a position where everybody depends on you, you are not necessarily only let's put it that way, supporting one manager. Maybe you support 2, 3, 4, 5 managers. Maybe you support a whole team. That was my role, you know. And then you have to set priorities. So set your priorities right, and you are not under your stress.
Okay, so it's good to be able to prioritize in this job.
Definitely, yes. But you have to you got to learn your lessons. Sometimes you prioritize wrongly, and then you get maybe a problem because you set the wrong priorities. But for me, it was mainly I am the type who always needs deadlines. So the thing which I always told my managers, I need always deadlines. So when you need this task done, tell me when. And then it needs to be a soft deadline and it needs to be a hard deadline. And that's my way of working.
And if they tell you as soon as possible or yesterday, which is the typical answer.
Yeah. I say, okay. I will see when I can do it. And I mean, it depends. You got to be thinking a little bit and you can judge yourself. If you are grown up enough, being an executive assistant while doing this task, what you do, you should be able to judge whether it's urgent or it's not. You know, if you do a trip that it starts tomorrow, I would say it is very urgent, you know. If you do a trip that is for in 2 months, you have a little bit more time. If your manager needs to go into a meeting and he forgot to prepare some paperwork, it is very, very urgent, you know. But this is exactly like the salt in the soup, what makes this job so challenging, that you never know what comes next.
Is it true that you need to know the company very well in order to be an executive assistant? I mean, thinking about, for instance, making PowerPoint presentations for your boss, or preparing for important meeting or board meetings. Is that part of the work that you used to do?
Yes, I did that part of the job, but I would say you grow into it. You cannot do everything at the very first day. And your manager, of course, brings you there where you got to go. Normally, you are being introduced by a former assistant, or if you have a job which has created newly, you grow into the job together with your manager. I liked it a lot when the manager saw me as a sparring partner and not like his helper. And this makes it very interesting. To give you a little example, the best times I had when my managers and me, we had the same thinking. So my boss told me something and I could say, well, I did that already, you know, so that I know already before he tells me what you have to do. And this is the best what can happen to you.
There's a good synergy between the two of you, so you can anticipate a lot.
Yeah, I have to say it must be a match in you're in such a position, because otherwise the job can become really frustrating. And quite frankly, I had this and I had the other, you know.
Yeah.
Also, I had jobs where I couldn't get along with my boss at all, and it was a constant fight. Then I had the jobs where it was an absolute match and where it was also inspiring when your manager comes to you to your desk, puts his feet on your desk and starts to talk a little bit with you. How is your life? And then he tells you a little bit how is his life. He tells you some secrets, of course. This is also a very important part, that you have to be very loyal. You have to know what can go out of your office door and what not. And this is also a very challenging part, that you got to know lots of things before other people know it.
Have you had female directors and male directors, both, or only men?
As far as I can remember, I think I only had male managers, and quite frankly, I like them more better than the female.
Why is that?
Because I can tell you, because female bosses, it's always a kind of a competition. And with male, male and female, they are not the same emotionally, you know.
Yeah.
And female, when they have their bad hair day, let's put it that way, you really get to know it, okay? And with a male boss, I don't think he will show off like that, you know. Either your boss has a bad mood and then you know when he has a bad mood, or he has a good mood and you know it too. So it's like a marriage with a manager, and that's what I liked. It's a professional marriage, and with a
Professional
woman,
man.
yeah, it's a professional marriage. And what can I say? I think I had once or twice. I had female supervisors, but what can I say? I went along with everybody more or less fine, except maybe for one or two. But that was maybe from the beginning not a good start, and I should have known before.
Okay. And then what do you say that the main character traits are in order to be able to do this job well or to enjoy it? What do you think you have that made you like this profession for so many years?
Definitely, you need to be able to communicate with people. I have to say that. And you need to be able to have the certain feeling for what is secret, what is not secret. I mean, you cannot be like a person that talks a lot around on the floor and speaks up everywhere. Sometimes you have to behave discreetly, and sometimes you have to shut up, and you have to realize when you have to use this portion of your job. And this is, I think, the difficult part. But also this, not everybody is born for this job, and this is why it is so interesting. I think it takes a lot of skills. And it's a never-ending story. I mean, you can learn every day something new, and that's what made it so interesting. And with every job that you change, it's like a complete new thing, because you have a complete new company, you have a new topic, you have a new manager, he works differently, you have new tools, you have new colleagues, you have a new branch, and so it's that's what I liked.
Yeah, good. How many years would you stay in the same job as a executive assistant of one specific person?
You have to admit that it doesn't make sense if you are a job hopper.
Okay.
First of all, it doesn't look good in your CV on such a position.
Right.
Secondly, as I said beforehand, you grow into your job. I have been in the happy position that my jobs were my positions. I could keep them for many years, always 3, 4, 5, 6 years. In my last job, I was 6 years. And this is a good timing to say either you can go up a little bit further in the ladder, or you stay as you are, or your job changes, or your manager changes. Because in 4, 5, 6 years, so many factors can change, and it's never consistent.
So we are now toward the end. I wanted to ask what you plan to do next, because you said that 2 years ago you stopped. Was there a specific reason why you stopped?
Yes, I stopped because I was more or less in a bore out. My job changed so dramatically because the management left. I mean, I used to support 6 managers, and I used to support 3 managers on top of these 6 managers. I supported a team of about 50 people, and I did this all on my own. And then from more or less one day to the other, when the well-known C topic came up, my job became completely different because my managers didn't travel anymore. Some managers had left already. The company restructured. So meaning there were some tasks which I shouldn't be able to do anymore, which I was not asked anymore to be doing them. And I was sent to the home office. So out of sight, out of ears, and I was more or less forgotten. So it was a very hard way. And then at the end of the year, I had to take a decision. Either you realize when your time is up, because when you can't get any further and when your way is only going down, you got to change something, or you are completely lost.
Okay. And what do you do now?
Now I'm self-employed. I'm an online management assistant.
Okay.
In 2020, just more or less at the same time when I quit my job, I did a new training course, and I learned all the skills which are nowadays needed when you work online, because I love working from home. I mean, for me, it was absolute luck. I could work from home, and I realized that this is now my world. And now I support people all over the globe, more or less. Yes, and I
Fantastic.
work for them. I do more or less different tasks, but you can always pull a drawer from what you know from all the years before. And the know-how in this position, what I have now, I'm now my own boss. I can choose my managers, and they are not my managers anymore. They are my sparring partners. I can choose them. I'm not chosen anymore, and I can set the rules. And this is something really interesting, and it makes my day, you know. It's very, very nice.
What's the biggest lesson you've learned?
The biggest lesson, what I learned. Yes, when you realize that you are misused or that you are not appreciated anymore, either you do something about it, you change it, or you speak up. But don't let managers shift you around and ask for appreciation. And if it's not working out, you got to do something, because you will not be happy. It must be a complete match, and you must go with a happy face every day to the office.
Yeah.
This is my main learning, and sometimes we're not so funny, but yeah, there is a time where you realize it, that you have to change it, and try to be a sparring partner and not only an assistant or supporter, and then you are doing the best.
For Gaby, executive assistance is like a professional marriage. What is your experience as assistant? Share your job tale with me at jobtalespodcast@gmail.com.